Je suis absolument ravie aujourd'hui. Je suis avec Terry Bratwahite, qui est tout droit donc en Angleterre et qui va nous parler un petit peu de tout l'aspect des femmes. Quelle est l'importance des femmes dans notre société, notamment en entreprise. Alors Terry, il est spécialisé en ressources humaines internationales. Il est aussi prof de droit, mais tenez-vous bien, il travaille aussi sur le mouvement corporel. Donc là, j'ai tout trouvé. Ce qu'on va faire, c'est que je vais parler un petit peu en français, un petit peu en anglais pour que eh bien, les deux publics puissent un petit peu comprendre ce dont on va parler. Terry Bratwahite, thank you very much for being with us today. Uh,
Thank you for inviting me.
my pleasure. Terry, we've known each other for like 20 years, I think. And you were my teacher at Coventry University, and we still have kept like contact together. You have like double or triple competency, and that's why today I would like to have a podcast with you regarding women, especially women in the workplace. Could you just tell us a little bit more about who you are and your vision also?
Well, I'd like to spend more time talking about your topic, but I basically, yes, you were my student at Coventry University, where I was a senior lecturer in international human resource management and also employment law. And I also have a parallel career. I'm a dance movement psychotherapist, integrative dance movement psychotherapy. I've been a practitioner for over 30 years and formerly head of the Birmingham Center for Arts Therapies Dance Therapy Department. And I also am involved in the field of law with regards to my current role. I retired from Coventry University in 2018, so I am currently the honorary fellow at the University of the West Indies Faculty of Law in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, I want to spend more time talking about your topic. I accepted your invitation because I'm quite interested in the metaphysical context of your perspective, and I would like to share my views on that because I'm quite keen to let your audience know that when it comes to the feminine energy, we have taken that energy for granted from the day one. And it is important for us to understand the role that the feminine energy plays in the evolution of womankind. And I say womankind because the yin and yang perspective is more integral than we have given it credit for in the way that we live our lives. There is in each and every one of us a male and a female energy. And that combined is what makes us tick. When we put more emphasis on one aspect of it than the other aspect, there is an imbalance. And many of us live our lives in the corporate context, focusing on the male aspect, which, we call that the patriarchal context. And the feminine aspect has been subdued. So I want to sort of bring that to the forefront, foreground it, and to unpack it with you. And I will let you lead on with the questions, and I will answer accordingly.
Thank you very much, Terry. I'm just going to translate shortly. Donc, une petite traduction de ce que Terry vient de nous dire. Donc, il a un petit peu présenté d'où il vient et sa triple casquette. Donc, à la fois la loi, les ressources humaines et également tout le côté mouvement corporel, parce qu'il a été directeur du centre un centre de mouvement corporel donc à Birmingham. Et là, il nous dit, en fait, souvent, on a deux énergies en nous, l'énergie féminine et l'énergie masculine. Et ce qui se passe, c'est qu'il y a souvent un déséquilibre entre l'énergie masculine et l'énergie féminine, notamment sur le lieu de travail. Donc là, on va voir un petit peu, il a dit qu'il voudrait voir un petit peu tout l'aspect métaphysique de ce qui se cache derrière l'aspect féminin. Donc, on va dérouler un petit peu les questions et Terry va répondre en anglais et puis je traduirai. Yes, so there's one question I would like to ask you, Terry, is, sometimes we talk about history, yeah? The history of men, the history of women. And when you tend to read books, you can see that women are not often in a position of leadership. Whereas when we're digging a bit more into, of a kind of, I would say, narrative, we have access to information showing us that women have always had a position in leadership role. Why isn't that like taught more often at university or when we are kids? Why do you think there's this kind of narrative showing the kind of, male domination or patriarchal situation? Is that like a hidden agenda or something like that?
Well, there's an element of what you will call religious underpinning.
Right.
You take into consideration, for example, the Catholic Church.
Mm.
To this day, women are still in subordinate roles. The Anglican Church, which came out of the chaotic scenario that King Henry could not get a divorce, so he decided to create his own church and religious system. Over the years, that has sort of been a bit more liberal, but still, women are in a subordinate role. And I think in all the religious systems, you will see where women are playing this subordinate role. Mm-hmm. But I would like to take it, into a more spiritual and biomedical context, integrating the two. As human beings, we have what you call the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is essentially flight or fight, which is more aggressive. And, if you're frightened, it's either you stand and fight or you run for your life. Mm-hmm. That is considered male-oriented. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the more calming, meditative type of role in the human body. So like if you are sleeping or you're going into meditation or yoga and so on and so forth, deep concentration, which calms the body, that is considered the feminine-oriented, aspect of our existence. More often than not, we are very much, groomed to relate to the sympathetic nervous system, in that we live in a world where competition is the order of the day. And when you're dealing with competition, gladiator type mentality, everything that you do has to be a competitive element of survival. Then you find that becomes dominant. And they find, for example, men would tell women, oh, we don't want women in the boardroom because they're too emotional. Mm-hmm. They're too irrational. Mm-hmm. What is emotional and irrational? That links into the feminine intuition. Mm-hmm. And the feminine intuition, I would say to you, is the most powerful weapon that we have as human beings. Mm-hmm. Women's intuition, really and truly, when you sit down and think about when leaders, in the leadership role, women fall into that role, that feminine intuition takes us a step further than the warlike, fight or flight attitude that we have. And if you check all the wars that we are having today, it's based on that warlike context, that thinking, that mentality that we have been groomed from childhood. Everything that you do, it must be a competition. What's in it for me? What have you done for me lately? I'm better than you. Mm-hmm. That type of thinking is what, creates all the warlike symptoms that we have to sort of address every single day of our lives. And we see it all around us. But yet, as the song goes, what the world needs now is more love. We don't need more mountains or rivers. If we sort of slant that approach a bit more, you find that people are a bit more calmer, they're more understanding. And I believe that what you're seeing in reality in the boardrooms when women are in charge, they lead us in that direction, a calmer, more intuitive type thinking.
Thank you very much, Terry, for this insight. I'm just going to translate it. Donc là, j'ai demandé un petit peu à Terry, mais alors pourquoi à chaque fois dans l'histoire, on nous montre les hommes dans des rôles de position? Et en fait, c'est comme une narration qui est créée. Et en réalité, on a beaucoup de femmes à travers l'histoire qui ont eu des rôles vraiment de position, même de guerrières. Il y avait des médecins, il y avait... Pourquoi on n'en parle pas assez? Donc j'ai demandé à Terry, est-ce que c'est comme un agenda caché ou quelque part, ben, on essaye de nous cacher la force de la femme et on met en avant une histoire depuis qu'on est tout petit sur la force de l'homme et la position de pouvoir de l'homme. Donc lui, il m'a répondu en fait on avait donc le système sympathique, parasympathique. Donc quelque part, il y a ces deux pôles qui représentent à la fois l'aspect féminin et l'aspect masculin. Et on est élevé dans cette notion de compétition. On est en compétition parce que c'est le plus fort qui doit gagner. Et que en fait, l'arme la plus puissante, c'est l'arme de l'intuition. L'intuition, c'est comme un outil qui permet vraiment de pouvoir transcender beaucoup de choses. Donc, c'est un outil majeur que les femmes doivent apprendre à utiliser. Donc là, je vais lui poser la question, bah, si on a été habitué justement à nous parler simplement de compétition, compétition, donc comment faire pour avoir accès à cette force intérieure? C'est la question que je vais lui poser. So Terry, the question is, if we have been groomed with this idea that there is competition and there is war, and that women's intuition have been kind of concealed or hidden, how is there still a possibility for us to access it? Some women access it maybe 10%, 20%, but I mean fully access it. And here I want to ask you a question linked with your profession as a body movement therapist. Have you worked with women, and what are the tools that you have used to allow them to access this intuition? Maybe, I don't know if you've been into this sort of situation, but because we can talk a lot, you know, but how does the body give you the cues on how to access this power, this weapon, as you say?
Okay, let's take it in two steps. One, women, the innate intuition, that understanding of life from the feminine energies perspective, it has been suppressed by the man or the male energy, but it has not been subdued.
Mm-hmm.
And you will find that what we miss in the work environment is very present in the home environment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any man out there who will doubt that in the home, while the man is supposed to be symbolically the head of the home, the female is the one who actually runs things, okay? As you know, the lioness is the one that hunts. The lioness really takes care of the pride. The lion is the protector. But really and truly, the lioness is the dominant factor in the home. And there's a bit of an anomaly here because sometimes we wonder, well, why do men approach women in a certain way? Why do men treat women in a certain way? Particularly if there's domestic abuse and so on. And we have to take into consideration that women themselves can be their own worst enemies in the way that they groom their sons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have a saying in the Caribbean. Just picture this: it's a village, and not just because it's the Caribbean, we have a village. You have villages all over the world, but you know, let's just use the context of a village in the Caribbean. And in this village, this woman gets up in the morning and she walks in the middle of the road and she puts her hand on her hips and she says loudly to the rest of the women in the village, and I'm going to speak in the vernacular here: all your women tie all your hen, I am letting go my cock. Now, what does that mean? The cock, as you know, symbolically, the male, come of age, and he's now ready to roam and to sow his seeds. So all you women who have girl children, keep your girl children behind doors, because I am not responsible for what my son, the cock, who has to sow his seeds, will do. Now, if you take that and you sort of use it in the context of, here is a woman giving you her campaign speech for her son's evolution and stepping out, or if you say coming out, ritual, then that son has the blessing of his mother. So when he goes out there and he sows his seeds, it's a case of, well, this is how I was groomed. My role is to sow the seeds.
Right.
Your role as the female is to produce. And if you produce a son for me, even better. As you know, in some societies, I wouldn't call any particular society, but it's well known that in some societies, if a child, when it's born, is a girl, the man will go out into the backyard and dig a grave and actually bury that child alive, that baby alive, get rid of it in some way. Because a man, a son, is worth more than a female. You see, that's the kind of grooming. And then what happens in that same family, the woman doesn't, she's hurt because she has produced this child, this daughter, but that's the tradition. So she goes with it. So I say it's subordinated, but it's not subdued, because if you really give them, that woman the opportunity to speak, she will actually want to rebel against that tradition. We also have other traditions like female genital mutilation and all these things. So it's subdued. And why is it subdued? Because it's a feeling that the feminine energy, if it's allowed like a phoenix to rise out of the ashes, will be a threat to the male domination. So yes, you have that element of the woman being her own worst enemy. And I say that symbolically, okay? Not that a woman actually, you asked me about, is there some impediment? I think in all of us, we tend to stand in our own way in many ways. And that can be detrimental to our progress, reaching our highest potential. But unless there is some sort of deep mental, you want to say challenge, for the mentally challenged, women who grew up in a home where there's constantly domestic abuse and so on and so forth, and that's all they know, then you look at it differently. But I think in general, we all stand in our own way at some point in time. And I don't believe that from my 30 years of experience, that can that is incurable. You can go through rehabilitation if you're in the right environment. Right. So I wouldn't put it down to, yes, we have impediments and, all is lost.
Right.
But that's the first part I wanted to deal with. So you can translate that and then I will move into the other part.
Yeah. And that's so rich. I'm not sure how I'm going to translate all that. Let's see. Donc Terry nous raconte l'histoire dans certaines civilisations, certaines traditions où la femme, quand elle donne naissance à un enfant mâle, elle dit, la meute tout le village, elle fait son speech, elle dit, vous qui avez des filles, enfermez vos filles quelque part parce que moi j'ai un mâle et le mâle il est fait pour engrosser les femmes en quelque sorte. Donc il y a la femme elle-même qui va porter cette tradition quelque part de violence envers des hommes envers les femmes. Donc c'est la femme qui est le premier nœud. Et la façon dont elle va élever son enfant mâle, ça va avoir des impacts majeurs. Donc on voit que même dans la transmission de cette notion de domination au masculin, eh bien c'est vraiment la mère qui est au centre du sujet. Donc il dit que il pense toutefois que c'est pas incurable, qu'il y a vraiment des formes de réhabilitation qui sont possibles. Et que là, il parlait vraiment d'un point de vue transmission héréditaire de l'aspect de la domination au masculin. Là, il a répondu donc à une première partie de la question. Je vais vous emmener là sur une deuxième vidéo où on va aborder le deuxième sujet. So what I was saying, Terry, is that we are going to do now another video to answer the second question. So we'll be back just after this break.
Okay.
Thank you.